Well, the Prime Minister says he deeply regrets any offence caused after he went on a family holiday while bushfires raged across Australia. Scott Morrison is travelling home to Sydney after days of criticism over his secret getaway. Political reporter Noor Haydar joins us now. So, Noor, Scott Morrison has broken his silence. Tell us more about what he said.
Good afternoon, Ros. The Prime Minister has released a statement addressing his decision to go on a family holiday while the bushfire crisis continues. The Prime Minister has been holidaying in Hawaii with his wife and two daughters this week, but now says he will be cutting that holiday short and returning to Sydney as soon as possible. In a statement he issued this morning, Mr Morrison says he deeply regrets any offence caused to Australians affected by the terrible bushfires and his decision to take leave with his family at this time. He says he's been receiving regular updates about the bushfire disaster as well as the status, search and treatment of victims from the White Island tragedy, of course referring to the volcano disaster in New Zealand where one Australian remains missing, presumed dead. Now, he also goes on to say that given the death of two volunteer firefighters in Sydney's southwest this morning, he's decided to return to Sydney as soon as he can. The Prime Minister's office has told the ABC that he will be returning to Australia tomorrow. Scott Morrison did speak to Sydney radio station 2GB this morning from Hawaii, where he said his absence has made no difference to the federal government's response to the bushfires.
Because there have been such horrendous events that has understandably caused a lot of anxiety, and I deeply regret that, and so does Jenny, and but to all those who are affected by the fires, especially, we deeply regret it, and so I'll be getting back there as soon as I can. The girls and Jen will stay on and stay out the rest of the time we had booked here, but I know Australians understand this, and they'll be pleased I'm coming back, I'm sure, but they know that I don't hold a hose, mate, and I don't sit in the control room.
No.
That's the brave people who do that are doing that job, but I know that Australians would want me back at this time after these fatalities, and so I'll happily come back.
So, Noor, the PM's decision follows days of talk about his overseas trip. How has this story unfolded?
Well, Ros, the Prime Minister has faced heavy criticism for his decision to go overseas while large swathes of the East Coast have been blanketed in smoke and dozens of bushfires continue to burn. The hashtags "Where the bloody hell are you" and "Where's ScoMo" began trending on Twitter earlier this week when speculation about the Prime Minister's whereabouts first began circulating online. Much of the criticism has been focused on the fact that New South Wales is facing what's been described as unprecedented bushfire conditions. There has also been parallels or comparisons drawn with the 2009 Black Saturday bushfires, where the Victorian Police Chief Christine Nixon was seen out for dinner during that catastrophe. Now, Scott Morrison at the time criticised that and said it was a bad judgment call. Up until yesterday, the Prime Minister has been defended by his coalition colleagues, many of them saying it's entirely appropriate for him to be taking a holiday, arguing he has a young family, two young daughters, and that he's entitled to a break. Labor, though, has been reluctant to weigh in on this. The opposition leader, Anthony Albanese, says the bigger issue is the lack of a national response from the government. Anthony Albanese wants to see volunteer firefighters compensated in some way, and he's pushing for a special COAG meeting to address the bushfire conditions and the heatwave conditions. Earlier this morning, Anthony Albanese did say that the secrecy around the Prime Minister's trip to Hawaii has been an unnecessary distraction. The opposition leader has been out at bushfire-affected communities in the Blue Mountains this morning, and he expressed his condolences to the families of the two volunteer firefighters who died last night when their truck rolled over.
This is a tragedy. It's a tragedy that's deeply felt by all of the firefighters here that I've spoken with this morning, and no doubt all of their families as well of every firefighter knows that it's a real risk, and we see the best of the spirit of Australia. We see people giving up their time, showing their courage, their resilience, putting their lives literally on the line.
Now, in a separate statement, the Prime Minister also expressed sympathy to the families of those two young firefighters who died last night. The Prime Minister says their sacrifice will forever be remembered, and he says that the federal government stands ready to provide the states with any assistance required when necessary.
Thanks, Noor.